Hello, everyone. I'm just going to get the event started in a few minutes, just waiting for a lot of the audience to gather in. Give us just maybe a minute or two, and then we'll get started. Maybe I'll give it one more minute. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Welcome. We're going to get started in just about a minute, just waiting for individuals to gather. Okay, it's 12:02. Welcome, everyone. I think we'll get started. Hello, everyone. Again, I am Farhana Mahbub, a Toronto chapter head for Women in Leadership. And also, I work for RBC Capital Markets. That's my day job. I will be your moderator for this event. And welcome to our first virtual collaboration with Shiseido and Women in Leadership Foundation. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the Indigenous peoples of the lands that we are on today. While we meet today on a virtual platform, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge the importance of the lands, which we each call home. We do this to reaffirm our commitment and responsibility and express gratitude while we continue to improve relationships between nations and to improve our own understanding of the local Indigenous peoples and their cultures. From coast to coast, we acknowledge the ancestral and unceded territory of all the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people that we call this land home. A bit about Women in Leadership Foundation. Established in 2001, we have been operating for 21 years as a nonprofit organization. We help women advance their careers in leadership roles across Canada and help employers recruit, grow, support a diverse workforce. We have presence in 8 cities in Canada and many award-winning programs, and that includes Women in Leadership mentorship programs, professional development programs, career coaching hubs, keynote speaker series, and many more. Also corporate employer partnerships, just this one today. A little bit about our sponsor, Shiseido. This is a leading global beauty company with portfolio that includes many prestigious beauty and fragrance brands. It is headquartered in the United States, in New York City, and employs over 2,500 individuals in the US, Canada, and throughout Latin America. With a respectful nod to the brand's Japanese heritage, it focuses firmly on the future of beauty, fully embracing the entrepreneurial, pioneering spirit with the belief that the best ideas are born of an environment that celebrates a diversity of experiences, culture, and perspectives. As Shiseido pursues beauty innovations for a better world, they encourage their employees to reach their full potential by bringing their whole selves to work every day. Their aspirations always is to be a source of talents, of best practices, and of the innovation that drives the company forward. Turning to today, I'm very excited to share with you that we have a powerhouse of talented keynote speakers. We will discuss how they navigated their careers, played integral roles as being inclusive leaders, how they mentored, sponsored the next generation of leaders, future of beauty, innovation, and digitization. I'm so excited. So with that, I will turn it over to our esteemed panelists to do a quick introduction of themselves, starting with Louanne McGrory, President of Shiseido Canada.
Oh, Farhana, thank you so much. You explained Shiseido in such a beautiful way. I'm Louanne McGrory, President of Shiseido Canada, and just wanted to share a few things about myself. So started in the beauty industry 35 years ago, if you can imagine, and actually had the wonderful opportunity to work with 3 major companies, Estee Lauder, Clarins, and then Shiseido for the last 25 years. Had an opportunity to do many positions within this organization. And I will say that one of the reasons I'm still here after 25 years is they promote from within, they motivate, inspire, and constantly challenge myself to go above and beyond. One of the things I love to do, of course, is helping others. I'm very much involved with Look Good, Feel Better as a co-chair of the foundation, as well as the Mirror Ball Committee. equally love helping others with several other philanthropy committees that I'm involved in. You know, some of the interesting things about me personally is I will celebrate a milestone this year, not only 25 years at Shiseido, but my daughter getting married, which is always going to be quite the adventure. So I'll pass it to Elaine, who is one of our fabulous vice presidents. Elaine, please share.
Thank you, Louanne. I'm Elaine Shigeishi, Vice President of Sales and Marketing for the Skincare Division. I've been in the industry for about 35 years, and my career started in Eaton's in the buying office when Eaton's was one of the largest department stores with 100 stores across the country. So times have certainly changed during my tenure. I've worked for Elizabeth Arden for 16 years, and now here at Shiseido for 15 years. So really enjoying working together and in a wonderful organization about beauty innovations. I'm also on the board for the Japanese Canadian Cultural Center, and I'm very proud to co-chair our diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives here at Shiseido. I'll turn it over to Leah.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having us. My name is Leah Thielen. I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing for the Makeup Division at Shiseido. And I also oversee our digital shared services team, which manages all of our digital commerce, CRM, paid media, e-retail. My career in beauty isn't quite as tenured as my colleagues, but I've been over 15 years in beauty. I've worked across 2 large beauty organizations, most recently my last 4 years here at Shiseido in Canada. Absolutely thrilled to be here with each of you and especially excited to chat through all of the exciting topics we have to share with you today. So thank you. Back to you, Farhana.
Thank you so much. Louanne, Elaine, Leah, welcome. This session is going to be really exciting. So why don't we just, dive into it? So let's start with culture. Culture is the organization's DNA. It's deeply embedded in your people's values, assumptions, beliefs, attitudes. It's the glue that makes your company unique. So maybe we'll start with Louanne. Tell us a little bit about your organizational culture and how that enables employee engagement, advances women in leadership roles, and builds your brand.
What a great question. Listen, it is all about people first. Our organization has a culture where we are, even though we're the #4 beauty company in Canada, we actually are really like a family. We collaborate together. We truly believe in promoting from within. The perfect example is my own career, but many other individuals. We believe in cross-pollination. So having people go from skincare to makeup to fragrance to shared services. We believe in truly engaging each one of our employees. I think what's so interesting today is as we celebrate, and you see in our backgrounds, we're celebrating 150 years of Shiseido's existence. But we really are re-looking to what the next 100 years looks like. And what's so passionate about that is we've created task forces across the world to say, what does the next 150 years look like for Shiseido? How can we continue to be proactive and really engage consumers, but also engage our employees? We listened to what they had to say, and we're truly trying to make it a better experience. So giving them opportunities to grow with us, giving them opportunities as well, I think, to really build unification in our culture. We truly enjoy getting together. It's going to be quite interesting now that we're getting back to the office, and I'll share a little bit more about that later. But that is truly, I think, the uniqueness of Shiseido, our omotenashi spirit that is really ultimate hospitality. And that's the way we treat our consumers. That's the way we treat our employees as well.
That's a great answer. I truly attest, cross-pollination is definitely the best way to learn in your career. It really accelerates your career in ways that you cannot imagine. Elaine, Leah, would you like to add anything else to that?
Yeah, I'd love to share that cross-pollination. We just recently in the skincare division, I'll call it the shuffle. There was one opening where one of our employees raised their hand and wanted to learn more on a different element of the business. So it's been great that there's vertical education, but also and movement, but also horizontally. So the transferable skills have been able to translate into different roles, growing opportunities, and we're finding that very rewarding. And the team is really excited about our work that we do together.
Absolutely. I think, just to touch on what Louanne was talking about when it comes to Tanashi spirit of Shiseido as the newcomer to this leadership team in Canada, I will say that the organization really does walk the talk. So this is an organization that leads with respect, leads with the people first approach, which sometimes can, in some organizations be lip service. It isn't lip service at Shiseido. It truly is an organization where, decisions that are made in service of what's best through respect for the employees. And as Louanne mentioned, what's best in respect to servicing our consumers in a way that's going to be, facilitating a better, more beautiful life for them. So all of that, I think, gets weaved really nicely into the day-to-day culture and the day-to-day work, so that we're always sort of walking and leading with those tenets in mind.
That's amazing. Walking the talk and people first. Louanne actually talked a little bit about it, really getting back to the office. And so I want to really start to touch on the fact that, one of the most significant problems faced by employees working remotely during the pandemic is really that conflict between work and their private life. We went from that daily ritual of getting dressed in the morning, commuting, grabbing our coffee, to working isolated like I am right now in my home. So my question to all of you is, how did you find that good element of this sudden culture change and preserve this in this newfound trust, empowerment, collaboration within your teams? What makes Shiseido so special?
Started off, we never became disconnected. We found ways to virtually connect, to virtually celebrate. We had some employees actually retire during the pandemic, and we did a virtual celebration party with memory books and videos. And so we truly stay connected. And part of our Trust 8 philosophy is, of course, take risks and be accountable, but one of the other one is applaud success. So any chance we could do a sales meeting where we were really calling out success stories of our individuals, that really was the difference. I think the other thing as well is we truly did trust our employees. We set everybody up. Those who could work from home, worked from home. I will say our warehouse stayed open through the whole pandemic with 0 cases during that time period in the warehouse. So we literally did everything possible to set up stations so we could still function in our business and be able to ship the goods to our drugstores that remained, of course, open during the whole way through the pandemic. The key here, I think, is we truly like working with each other. And I think that is the key to success. And we all found ways to be connected, and from Zoom meetings. And I think we also even did that in our personal lives. And that's just the type of people we are. Elaine, Leah, do you want to add anything more to that?
I totally agree on being connected. Sorry about that, Leah. I totally agree on being totally connected. We were on several calls, and I think what we missed is a small talk. So as the small talk of when we were gathering into a boardroom, for instance, we were able to do that. And that's probably one of the things that we missed, and tried to figure out ways to take that extra 10 minutes just to say hello and to find out what everyone did on the weekend before we started our meeting.
Yeah, I was just going to add, because Shiseido has such a strong foundation in that culture, the Trust 8, trust and respect, leading with trust and respect and people first. I think, we were all very quick to understand that work-life balance is going to change in a pandemic. And, for some people, that means still logging in at 9 o'clock, logging off at 5, and that's how they kept their balance, even though they were doing their work virtually. But for others, it meant being able to take 2 hours in the middle of the day for childcare handoffs and, helping elderly parents and those types of things. And I think the fact that, we as an organization were flexible with each other, with our peers, with our direct reports, with our leadership, to help everybody sort of navigate what this new work-life balance looked like in the pandemic, really helped to just shore up and demonstrate the foundations of trust and respect that the organization leads with.
That's amazing. I actually can feel the collaboration and the energy right here on screen, even though we're virtual. So that's really amazing. And I think that's what it is. Just celebrating each other and really having that human connection really makes a lot of difference. And now that we're going back to work or have plans to go back to work, what is the organization's plan to really have it? Is it hybrid? Is it people going back? Well, maybe you can shed some light on that.
Oh, absolutely. So what's really important for us is safety first. So we've decided to go 50% of the people, 50% of the time. So we really found that people were getting into a routine of working from home and we're very effective. So we've decided to divide it up in groups. And basically what is interesting is we're making sure the teams are working together, but we're also cross-pollination to a certain extent as well. And I think that's really important as we played through it. What is equally interesting is that we're also launching our Summer Fridays the same time we're reopening the facility. So that means that every second Friday they have off so they can plan long weekends with their families, etc., just by working a little bit extra hours, which they were probably doing already. So it really has been exciting. And I will say the first weekend, as I was talking to all the individuals that were there, they were so happy. I said, I know you're not going to be productive this week because you're going to be socializing, and that's okay, because that is the connection I want them to reestablish. So I do believe everyone is welcoming the idea. And again, people first. So what works for them is what's important for us.
Absolutely. And I think you made a great point. If you're going back to work, it's really about that social interaction. It's about that human interaction. I think the pandemic has really pivoted us into thinking, at home, you're most productive when you're with people, that you use the time to actually have that human connection. I absolutely attest to that. Elaine, Leah, anything to add further to that?
No, I think she said it perfectly. It's fun to see everybody. As Elaine said, the small talk is nice to catch up on, and just to see people's faces and hear what's going on in their lives when we're not scheduled for a specific conversation, the way it tends to align through, virtual meetings and so forth. So no, I absolutely agree.
And, if I can, just one more thing, Farhana, what we're doing is also having, activities. So we do have a beautiful training room. So we're going to start to do facials at lunchtime, and we're going to have, complimentary snacks and lunches and all sorts. And one of the things we love to do at Shiseido is our potluck, because our representation of the country and the world is amazing. So everyone comes together. So those are some of the things. And we always do several barbecues, etc. So yes, we work hard, but we play hard too.
You had me at facials at lunchtime. Wow. Okay, that's something that I will be taking back to my, colleagues to implement in our part of the world. So let's pivot into talking about personal branding. Effective personal branding will differentiate you from competition and allow you to build the trust with prospective clients and employers. And that's something that you all just touched on. I want to segue into how you all really build your personal effectiveness and branding in your careers. And it's obviously, I'm sure the audience can attest to it. It's not very common that, we have speakers from such a glamorous brand. So enlighten us, please tell us.
Well, I guess I'll start. Listen, I build my personal effectiveness and branding. I always learn. I'm open to ideas. I think I learn from my mentors. I learn from my mentees. Being in the beauty industry for so many years, it was a great stepping stone, because there's two things I learned very early in my career is, first of all, do what you say and always over deliver, right? So I think that's really key. And always have an openness to learn. Because you don't always have the answers, and having that openness allows you to continue to grow. And what I love, and the team here knows this, is those discussions, those debates, because the solution becomes 100% better than just going in and saying, this is the way we're going, having people feed into the solution. So that's part of my branding, that openness. But I will also say part of my branding is giving back. When you think about Louanne and you ask my friends as an example, or my colleagues, they'll say she works hard, but she also loves to give back and help others, because at the end of the day, I've been very fortunate. I want to give that same opportunity to my mentees and to the students that work for us as well during the summer. All of that's very important to who I am.
That's great, Louanne. Elaine, Leah? Yeah.
So my philosophy generally is just be yourself, be true to yourself. And what I feel very fortunate about in the cosmetics industry is that it's given me an opportunity to take some of the business skills, apply it with creativity, and apply it to a different type of industry. And it's truly about building your relationships and your partnerships. I find that these are elements that that is so important. So being true to yourself, really good to people, and the simple philosophy of just really enjoying working with people who really want to work with you. And it really works together. So I'd say that that would be sort of the way I've gone through the entire career.
Leah, do you want to add anything else to that?
Yeah, personal branding is such a great question. I feel like so much of what we do on social media, whether it's our LinkedIn or our personal social media, is about building our own personal brand. And so when I think about what that looks like in a professional setting, I think it starts with intentionality. For me, it's deciding what I want that brand to be, but letting the decision of that outcome be heavily informed by the skills and the value that I'm bringing to the organization. So to Elaine's point around authenticity and being yourself, taking a look at, who am I in this organization? What value am I bringing to the table? How am I elevating the organization with the work that I'm doing? And how can I leverage that skill set that's coming naturally to me to sort of shape it into a personal brand intentionally? And then the second piece of that, at least for me in my professional development, has always been, how do I want to show up? How do I want to show up in this meeting? How do I want to show up in this presentation or conversation? And that was often with the mindset of yes and. So in a conversation, in a meeting, in a difficult or, thought-provoking, yes and, I feel like, is a really great way to start to figure out your personal branding, meaning, always building on what other people are presenting, putting forward. But again, for me, it always came back with being intentional. So how do I want to show up, and understanding and through self-reflection, what value am I bringing to the organization that sets me apart from my peers?
All great answers. Being intentional. Elaine, you talked about really being true to yourself. Louanne, you talked about being open. Great answers. Now that we've kind of talked about, personal branding and effectiveness, let's also talk about sustainable beauty, right? And a lot of organizations are actually harnessing the power of science and technology to tackle many global challenges. And we want to hear from you about the future of sustainable beauty, what that means, and how Shiseido is building that sustainable future, driving growth and profitability.
Such an important subject and a very, very good question. So we have created task forces across the country. We are moving forward. We were already very, very focused on sustainability. As an example, some of our plants across the world function on solar power, as an example. But when it comes to actual beauty products, we are already moving to refillables. We are already moving to looking at the type of materials that our products are being used, and as far as making sure that they are recyclable, etc. So I would venture to say that it is very much on the top of our priority list, and you will hear a lot from us moving forward. And Elaine, I think maybe you can add a little bit more to that, because Shiseido brand itself is definitely being a leader here.
Yeah, we in our products itself too, ocean-friendly sun care is an important priority. We're the leaders of the sun care category in Canada, so really proud of the positioning with biodegradable products, and again, many sustainable initiatives. The global initiative too, the commitment is to be carbon neutral by 2026, and to reduce water consumption by 40%, as well as a zero landfill by 2026. So, there's strong global commitments for sustainability. In addition, as far as our initiatives for diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's really critical for us to educate ourselves, and also to help facilitate the conversation for change. And we've been able to do that through sponsorships of our Hudson's Bay partner with the Charter for Change, and also with Ryerson University with the Symposium of Anti-Asian Hate. And these are areas that we're very proud of, and we're moving towards, again, continuing education through our regional platforms. And it certainly is making a difference. It's opening our eyes, and as Louanne mentioned, being open to the communication and learning and promoting change.
That's amazing. And what about social justice? And you touched a little bit about the D&I efforts. What kind of deliverables or initiatives are happening in the social justice front that Shiseido is doing in this regard?
Well, truly supporting, the the areas around the world with the war in Ukraine, there are donations that are being made by employees matched through the organization. Everyone is very aware of, all the social elements around the world and truly being supportive. We have employees around the world. So the global business is very sensitive and truly supportive. And we're really proud of that.
That's great. All of you actually mentioned a little bit about the omotenashi approach. Maybe tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I will look to Elaine. She is the master of omotenashi,
Yes.
but I will say that we all live it, breathe it, and it is part of who we are. But Elaine, I love the way you explain it, so please do so.
Well, when I joined Shiseido, around, all the employees kept saying omotenashi, omotenashi, and I'm third generation Japanese Canadian, but I didn't understand the word. And I asked my mother, what does omotenashi mean? And her first response was, oh, and I thought like, oh, and it's a formal word that's used in Japanese tea ceremony of, again, ultimate hospitality and warmth. But what we have taken on the word to mean so much more. It's the responsibility to care. And with that responsibility, that's to care for our individuals, as far as our employees, all our friends, our partners, and as well as environment as well. So it threads through the importance of that responsibility to care and the respect that we show each other. And it truly does thread through the entire organization, but also, again, with all our partners. And you feel it every time we walk into a room with, retail partners. It is different that you'll find when the Shiseido team walks in.
That's amazing. I actually want to visit one of the sites right now and your meeting rooms to actually experience this omotenashi principle. Switching gears, let's talk about innovation and digitization, and maybe we'll start with Leah this time. As experts in retail, what shifts and changes have you seen over the last couple of years? What are some of the future strategic initiatives that Shiseido is taking on?
Absolutely. I think, over the last couple of years, there has been a step change and certainly an acceleration in digital commerce in Canada. And I think, before the pandemic hit, we were sort of marching along behind the US a few years, but the pandemic really accelerated exponentially the adoption of digital commerce in this market. And I think, thankfully, Shiseido Canada was poised to take advantage of that. Through Louanne's leadership, we had launched our direct-to-consumer sites. We had launched our CRM database and had really sort of put those wheels in motion. So we were in a good position to take advantage. But okay, so now the pandemic is over, how are behaviors going to change? And I think what we're realizing is that even though we're seeing this really wonderful resurgence of shopping in brick and mortar, the consumer is still doing a ton of research online and has now built this muscle memory around online shopping that isn't going away. And so the lesson for us is to double down on our strategy of always putting the consumer at the center of our decision making, because the consumer is going to tell us where they're going to shop, and their behaviors are certainly always changing. And the way that we're reacting to that is listening through data, listening to the consumer through voice of consumer reporting, understanding where and when is the right time to interact with the consumer and their journey in an effort to influence their potential openness to considering our brands. The other piece of that I will say is that with the acceleration of digital commerce in Canada post-pandemic, the big players are really setting the table stakes for the rest of us. The Amazon adoption of 2-day shipping, same-day shipping, shop online, pick up in store, all of these sort of shopping tools, mechanisms, delivery services are, setting the expectation for the consumer. And so we have to really rise to that expectation, which isn't always easy. It can take reshaping of a P&L in service of making those decisions, effective and profitable for the business. But again, listening to the consumer and understanding how their behaviors have changed and sort of modeling our approach in service of that is really how we're walking with the consumer post-pandemic.
That's really great. Louanne, do you want to add anything to that?
She completely completely explained it, and it's so true. And we're really truly in the middle of putting it into action now, and our market share is showing that it's been effective. But the other thing I want to talk a little bit about digitalization and what helped us so much is that when we were faced pre-pandemic with really pivoting and moving away from 85-90% of our business being in brick and mortar to wanting to really digitize our business, and digital first was our approach. Every single one of our employees in the organization went into the digital academy, which Leah was one of the leaders. And even our warehouse staff, they all took the courses to really become digitally savvy. What did that do? That'll really, I would say, lifted the bar on everybody's understanding that digital was the way we were working. It was not just part of our strategy anymore. It was the strategy, and everything needs to be really communicated through an omni-channel approach. Whether that be go where your consumer is, whether that be, have an experiential opportunity in brick and mortar, or truly, I would say, transfer that experience in store to online through live streaming. So we've done all of that, but we first educated everybody, and it made it a lot easier for everyone to adopt. So I think that was a really great winning formula that we had in Canada. And I think we were #1 in the world across Shiseido for our digital adaptation of basically being willing to learn more.
Absolutely.
That's great. Elaine, did you want, yeah, go ahead.
If I can add to the omni-channel experience, I think that's a very important part. The consumer journey is definitely not linear, and we're receiving information from so many different sources. So omni-channel for us is about having that experience, best-in-class experience, whether it's digital or whether it's in-store. Our beauty advisors are well-educated, and there's that personal touch. And certainly after the pandemic, I think everyone is so hungry to get back into a physical space and have that personal one-on-one conversation. So there's so much to the omni-channel full experience, multi-channel experience. We've also worked on an incredible partnerships that we've really enjoyed. And so having the in-store experience being very different, and also being in places that you don't expect the business. So if I could share an example of our partnership that's actually just going live, and it's with Arterra brands, Arterra wines. Shiseido partnered with the Bodacious brand, which really celebrates inclusivity, uniqueness, confidence. And with the purchase of the Bodacious wine, you'll receive a mini Shiseido lipstick. And we're so excited that we're going to be present in the liquor stores across Canada. And we're working on different type of activations. So there'll be contesting, virtual events, but the spokesperson that we've chosen together is Priyanka. Priyanka is the winner of Canada's Drag Race, and she is a great example of of confidence and diversity and really inclusion. And what we love about the commercial, she takes the lipstick and she writes on the mirror, "Find your fierce." And we're very proud about that, again, being very disruptive and yet true to the brands that we represent.
Love it. Before I segue, that was an amazing story. Thank you, Elaine, for that. Before I want a segue into the Q&A with the audience, I want to sort of deep dive a little bit more into your people first approach. And you kind of talked about the principles of your organization. And I know when we first met, you talked about those 8 trust principles. Maybe Louanne, talk to us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. I live by the Trust 8. It's interesting because those are our working principles. And what we're doing is we're really promoting our employees to live by these. So whether that be take risks, respect, openness, collaboration, applauding success, all of these are so important. But I think what's really important is our people first approach, where we are wanting to work with our employees to help them in their career paths. We want to be their mentors. We want also them to take on mentees, because what is most interesting is as we have new employees join us, we want them to embrace the culture. So this is the key of our onboarding approach, et cetera. And it's really allowed us, I think, to set everyone up for success. And this trust aid has allowed us, as Elaine alluded to earlier, that when we walk into a retailer, they know that what we say we will do, they know that we are willing to partner with them. And I always say, yes, we're a number 4 company, but we act like we're a startup because we're willing to try new things. Perfect example is what we're doing right now. You know, we'll be the first beauty brand to ever go into the LCBO. So I think that's something to be said there. And we've had many other interesting partnerships, whether it be with the Art Gallery of Ontario, whether it be with the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Raptors. We were the first beauty brand to be with Raptors. Who would have thought that 50% of the people going to Raptors game were actually women? And they were very open and poised to want to embrace beauty. So very interesting on how we use our trust aid, but also push boundaries just a little bit.
Love it. Elaine, Leah, anything to add?
All I could add is that one of the trust aid is take risks. And I think that's exactly what we work on. And certainly during the pandemic, it has been truly enforced. And I think we're all very proud of the accomplishments that we've been able to make.
Indeed.
Yeah, I would just add that, you know, even part of our procedures and how we do coaching and development within the organization, and the trust aid principles are weaved into that. So we encourage our teams to sort of measure themselves and how they're performing against the trust aid so that they can share with us and with each other how they're exemplifying those principles in their work and their day-to-day activities. So that's also great to see that it's not just a plaque that goes on the wall. It's something that, as Louanne said, we sort of live and breathe as part of the organization. It's weaved into everything we do pretty organically.
That's amazing. And, you know, throughout my career, I've always felt that if you're not uncomfortable, you're not growing, right? So the risk factor really, you know, weaves in very nicely to it. You always have to take risks, perhaps calculated risks, depending on the stage of life you are in, your circumstances, but without feeling that little bit of uncomfort, like without being in that uncomfortable zone, you're not growing. So absolutely can attest to the trust aid principles. So with that, I think we have around 20 minutes or so. I would love to open it up to the audience and, see if there are some Q&As that we can have ask the panelists. Nicole, would you help us with, sort of directing the questions? Let us know perhaps if you're getting any questions in the chat room.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. We actually received a couple of questions in advance that we do have lined up for our lovely speakers. So I can kick it off with the first question. So would love to hear from each of you on who you look up to for inspiration, mentorship, who some of those key players for you have been as you've grown in your career.
Shall I start? I've been so fortunate to have some amazing mentors in my life. So I basically had the pleasure of being in the beauty industry, as you know, for the last 35 years. And I met two global women in my career, one being Vera Struby, the creator of Angel from Thierry Mugler, an amazing woman with determination. And she always taught me one thing. She goes, you only have a chance to launch a brand once. Make sure that you leave nothing to chance and everything is in the detail. So that was one of the key learnings for me. And then there was Chantal Roots, who was a mentor for me, who was president of the BPI division within Shiseido globally. And this woman was a powerhouse. And I mean that in the most positive way. She was able to build the fragrance division within Shiseido Group. She also was teaching me the importance of being able to be determined, not give up. If someone says no, that means maybe. So keep going. And so those two individuals were amazing. And then the third one would have been Eric Henry, who was, for me, someone I worked with at Clarence, who then eventually joined Shiseido. And he truly showed to me that the front line is crucial. The people who are representing your brands with our closest to our consumer is so important to us. And always know your market. One of the things I love to do, and I can't wait to get back out there, is store visits, seeing customers, seeing beauty advisors, seeing consultants, really sharing with them, because they are seeing our consumer firsthand. They will tell me the way it is. And I think that are the three key areas and mentors that have made a difference in my life. Sorry if I took too much time, but very passionate about that. And it's what makes me, I think, successful in that regard. But I also learn from everybody every day.
I'd have to agree with that too, Louanne, that we learn every day. And I was feeling that I have inspirations from everyone that we interact with. But I'll cite my mom as an inspiration, and my two daughters. And it seems like it's a bit of polar. But my mom, I feel, was a very brave young woman when she arrived in Canada, and she made her way. I feel like I have a lot of her determination, her need for, to continue, and at whatever resources that she had. And I feel that there's a lot of learning that I've had from her. But also my two daughters, it's amazing what you can learn from youth, and that, that they're how brave they are, and how similar in their, they're young women in their 20s, is similar to the age that my mom arrived here in Canada, but yet that bravery and the courage, and to do things differently, and the approach that they take now, especially with navigating in the digital space, that a space that becomes much more global than when we were growing up, when it was very local. So there's been, for me, those are my inspirations, but also my team are great at inspiration for me as well. As we're navigating new ways of doing business, we're in this really try, learn, fast fail, whatever that is. But our success stories have been fantastic, and we truly have a great learning environment.
Wow. I mean, last but not least, I mean, the team has really covered the gamut on inspiration. I will say, though, that I'm incredibly inspired by my colleagues on the panel. I am inspired by their tenacity, by their resilience and ambition. And, being the sort of relative newcomer to the Shiseido organization, I have been, fostered and coached and led through example by both Elaine and Louanne. And so I'm incredibly inspired by them every single day, in the work that they do. The other source of inspiration for me over the last couple of years has been, as Elaine mentioned, her team. It's definitely been the teams. I mean, I've watched people on my team navigate, both parents working from home, kids running around, crawling all over them, trying to get through meetings, and still seeing, all of them, but women especially, still showing up and finding a reason to sort of engage and keep pushing their mission forward. And if that's not inspirational, I'm not sure what is. I just have the utmost respect for what the teams have managed to go through and still come out on the other end feeling engaged and inspired themselves. They truly inspire me in that way.
Thank you so much for that. We have another really great question lined up. So would love to hear from each of you on one of those sort of big career risks that you've taken, in your time, sort of climbing that corporate ladder, and what you learned from it, more importantly. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Mm-hmm. Great question. I would say the biggest risk I took was leaving Montreal when my daughter was 3 years old, leaving Clarence, which was an amazing company, and basically moving to Toronto, my husband closing his business, starting all over, and coming to Toronto for Shiseido. That was a big, big decision because I was leaving all of my family behind, my whole support system, but I don't regret it for a second. I found a brand new family in my colleagues and my new friends. The country's pretty small after all, right? And I think that was key. So I think that was the biggest challenge. And for me, it was also going into a new organization. But the welcome I got from Shiseido at the time, back in 1996, was exceptional. And I will say some employees that I met then are still with us today. Just if I may segue a little bit into part of what we were talking about earlier about people first. When we celebrate our 150th anniversary very soon, we will have over 10 people that will be honored for 10, 20, and 30-year accomplishments with us. We have people that were with us 36 years and just retired. So we're very fortunate. And again, I think the only challenge I had coming into Shiseido was the physical move. Everything else was bonus.
I'm going to laugh about this one. And so Louanne, don't listen. I think my risk in my career actually was joining Shiseido. I know that sounds so odd in hindsight, but at the time, there was two reasons for that. First of all, my career has been very much through the marketing, communications, and education role. And at Shiseido, when I first joined, I also started taking on a sales component to it. And so I thought, wow, this is a new venture, a stage where I wasn't sure, even though I knew all the players in the retail side, it was a bit of a risk for me to take on the responsibility of sales. And so that was a big part of it. And then the other part of it was that I am third generation Japanese Canadian, but I didn't understand what the culture of the business would be. I can't tell you how much now I totally have, where I'm completely involved in the same, because it reflects who we are as well. But to be perfectly honest, I wasn't sure if that work ethic was going to be as Japan is, or what does that mean? And it is totally a great hybrid of Canadian, of course, all our policies are our Canadian principles, but with the heritage of the Japanese heritage. And it really has worked out to be not a risk at all. So.
That's amazing. I didn't know that, Elaine.
I know. I don't know if I should have said that.
It's fun to hear these pieces. I think, for me, the biggest risk that I took also had the biggest reward. So and honestly, it was a lateral title shift. And I think sometimes we think that, in order to take a big risk, you have to completely change your title or completely change your industry. And for me in my career, there was a moment where I had a lateral shift title-wise, but a completely different job. And that was when I went from being in a traditional sort of wholesale role, managing the Walgreens business for a previous organization in the US, and moving completely into a digital function. And I will say it was scary, primarily because I didn't know anything about digital commerce or e-commerce or CRM. And my boss at the time actually had to give me a book on all of the different acronyms that were like learning a completely new language. But, the big reward for me was learning this new language really helped me to understand that the business discipline that I had from my previous role carried over. It's just, it really made me passionate about demystifying the digital channel for everybody, because there's a lot of people that are very savvy in business, and really just understanding how that learning can be transferred into a digital experience is, shouldn't be an intimidating thing. And for me, the biggest reward was then my career certainly accelerated as digital commerce in general accelerated over the years to come. So, I guess the lesson I took away from it was lateral can work really well to pivot your career. I'm very grateful that I took that risk.
I want to add in, I know I'm not a panelist, but I'll just add in my story as well, because I totally resonate to all of you. 6 years ago, I took a big risk in my career by moving from the pharmaceutical industry to the banking industry. And that was sort of an industry jump. I had no idea about the banking industry. My degree is in biochemistry, and I spent 10 years in the pharmaceutical industry, but it turned out to be the best decision of my life. And yes, initially it was hard. There was a learning curve, but I think in all of your stories, there's one thing that resonates with me, is that when your fit is with the organization, then your careers will accelerate. And I think that's a very, very key message, that take those calculated risks, because once you find your tribe, you're going to accelerate. Nicole, back to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we have probably time for maybe one or two more. The next one here, I'll read out is, what's the biggest challenge as a woman in leadership, in a leadership role, that you've had to overcome? And, in overcoming that challenge, like, what did you do? How did you do it? What did that look like?
I would say, in my particular case, it's when I thought I was up against many people for the role of president at Shiseido Canada. Again, Canada is a wonderful place to live. Many people, I think, were interested in this position from all over the world. In the beauty industry, I must say, there is still a very dominant male population as leaders. And I was very, very fortunate when I, went for my interview in New York City, and applied for this position and gave it my, I had my strategy, my first 100 days, everything set up, ready to go, and had a wonderful, wonderful meeting. But then the leader at the time said to me, yes, it's yours. And it was just so incredible. So I went to the party knowing that I was up against a lot of competition. And so where's the moral of that story? The moral is, no matter how sure you might be, always go in with your worst case scenario, because it can only get better. If you're prepared, you will be successful no matter what comes down the pipe.
I'm trying to think of a good example of a story, but to be honest, I'm thinking about, for me, it's about navigating our regional and different offices around the world. So maybe an example, even yesterday, we did 2 financial plans presentation in the day, one on the Drunk Elephant side, where we presented to our American global leaders, and then in the evening in Tokyo for our Shiseido brand. And it really is the same types of business plans, and you could tell that the culture just is different, and navigating that. And I really love that challenge. It's really wonderful. But at the end of the day, again, they had, the nice part of both meetings to me was that they totally respect how we uphold the brand values and then the principles of our business as well. So it really comes through in both our different types of offices, but incredible through the stability of the business.
It also speaks to, I think, the flexibility Canada has. We are we are known as diplomats, I think, across the world when you think about a Canadian. And I think we navigate and adjust according to whom we're speaking to, whether that be our consumers, our brand holders, our regional headquarters, our employees. I think our role is to adjust and adapt, because you always get more when you go in with a collaborative approach.
Yeah, totally agree.
Leah, it's all yours.
Yeah,
I know what your challenge is.
You two are such hard acts to follow. I will say, for one of the I guess challenges is also one of the things I see as having the biggest reward. So as a woman in leadership, and I challenge myself with this, and thankfully I have wonderful, mentors like my colleagues here to help demonstrate this, is really making sure that if you're in the room, take your seat at the table. You're not in the room as a wallflower. You're not in the room as decoration. As a woman, if you're in the room, speak your mind, to Louanne's comment, be prepared. And I'm talking to myself as much as I'm talking to the audience here, but it's about taking your seat at the table, and you're not there by accident. I think as women, we have to really fight that imposter syndrome sort of thing running in our heads. When I say that tackling that leadership skill for myself also has a big reward, I really do work to coach, my team, my mentees, to take their seat at the table and really demonstrate for them that, this is your opportunity to shine, and you have a safety net in me to catch you if something doesn't go your way, but really use each and every opportunity to take your seat at the table.
I love that. I want to add a story, and a lot of you may actually know this, and even the audience. I don't know if you've seen this paper. There is a publication during Obama's time in the administration. A lot of women actually found their voices unheard, so they actually implemented the strategy. Some of you are smiling, so you may have heard of it, which is like sort of I can't remember the exact name, but it was kind of like a ripple effect, where so if Elaine said something, Leah would go ahead and reinforce that message. I would reinforce that. Louanne would reinforce that. Obama was very smart, or is very smart, and he picked that up very quickly, that this is a strategy that the women had implemented, and that's a very classic example of women empowering women, right? Really having each other, owning that seat at the table, and also having each other's back to make sure that your voice is heard. And I think secondly, I want to sort of add on, having obviously Shiseido may have a lot of may not have this issue because it's may not be very much a male dominated environment, but for the audience who are in male dominated environments, always find, you know, sponsors, mentors, as all of our panelists just talked about, and also allies who are going to be there to guide you, to support you, and also walk you through some of those difficulties and challenges that you might be having, that you can find somebody to actually talk to navigate your career. So just, I wanted to add those two things. Nicole, back to you.
Yeah, of course. Did we want to go for one more question, or?
I think we have time for maybe just one more.
Great, yeah. So Louanne, just with tight time, perhaps we can pose this one to you. But what are you most excited about in terms of the future of Shiseido? I'd love to hear a bit about that.
Oh my goodness. As Farhana said in the very beginning, beauty innovations for a better world. And it is how we are going to make women and men beautiful inside and out. Right? Skin beauty is all about inner and outer beauty. And I think our innovation will help us do that. But also we will continue to give back. We will continue to help society in so many ways. And that's what excites me about the future for Shiseido. We have won many, many awards, but we'll never sit on our laurels. That's the key. We'll always continue to strive to be better citizens, better corporate citizens, of course. But equally, I think really look at the future. We've existed for 150 years from a pharmacy that had a soda shop in it and brought, you know, when you think about it, North American medicine to Japan 150 years ago. And now we are creating sunscreens that are good for the environment. We're creating products that will not leave any residue behind, etc. I think we have so much more. The future is bright at Shiseido. That's how I feel.
What a lovely way to end it.
Amazing.
May I say one thing, Farhana? I just actually, I noticed in the chat, there's one individual who worked for me probably 35 years ago, who is commenting and so on. So a very special hello to Mimi, and I look forward to seeing you very soon. And I did see wonderful things pop up in the chat. I think that we have a very engaged group, and this has truly been an honor to be part of Women in Leadership, and a great experience. Ladies, I don't know if you wanted to add something, but I was quite excited.
Totally. Thank you for the opportunity. We really appreciate it. And no, truly, it's been an honor to be here today.
Yeah, I second that. And I look forward to hearing from all the people who are attending when they have their opportunity to be on a panel in the future.
The pleasure is all ours, and represent and speak for women in leadership. Today, we would like to also thank our audience for attending the meeting. And as you know, there will be 4 lucky winners of some beautiful curated gift bags, including makeup, fragrance, skincare, compliments of Shiseido Canada. Winners will be contacted post-event. Nicole will do that for us. Thank you, Nicole. And in closing, I'd like to also thank, again, our esteemed panelists for their time, for their insights. Personally, for me, it has been so educational to learn how a global brand has pivoted during the pandemic and really continue to create beauty innovations to make a better world. Thank you again, and I hope next time we meet, it's going to be in person. Thank you again. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.